Who is the most unexpected person you had sex with? My friend's housemate's friend, who didn't speak a word of English. I smiled at her during a house party, then about 2 hours later she grabbed my hand and led me into the spare bedroom. The universal language of love. LOL. Same thing happened to me with an Italian girl. We met earlier and later she grabbed my hand, put her index finger up to my mouth and said, "Shush," and proceeded to lead me to her bedroom. A coworker I never liked. We were forced to work together once. Turns out she is really nice to work with and talk to. One thing led to another and now we've been together for 13 years now. Okay, sorry, that one's actually pretty cute. This thread is for people to brag about their made-up stories. Had the biggest crush on this girl in high school, but we never had a conversation beyond random pleasantries since we were in completely different social groups. Fast forward a few years after graduation, I was going to Australia for a while, and a friend told me about this girl from our high school who was apparently living there now. So I randomly hit her up on Instagram, seeing if she'd like to meet up at all. Ended up spending the entire month with her, and we were hooking up pretty much the entire time. 17-year-old me would be so proud of 25-year-old me, classmate from college while we were playing Crash Bandicoot. Ooga booga. At my 50th high school reunion, I re-met our homecoming queen. We hadn't been close in high school, she was way out of my league, but got along great 50 years later. We're now in a long-distance relationship, travel together and visit back and forth. 70-year-old rabbits. I was a nerdy 18-year-old who had only been with one girl. A girl I had just graduated with started a tattoo apprenticeship, and I commented on her Facebook post congratulating her. She randomly DM'd me a few days later and asked if I wanted to maybe watch LOTR with her. Hell yeah, I wanted to watch LOTR. So she came over to my place, and before I realized what was happening, we were making out. I just wanted to watch my favorite movie and instead had the best sex ever with an almost stranger. Situation ended up with me having a ferret, a urinary tract infection, and a bad tattoo in a noticeable spot. A waitress after her shift ended. I had never met or even spoken to her prior to her serving me black coffee at like 11 p.m. Similar story with a flight attendant. I had an overnight layover. She rolled past me leaving the airport, asked me when I was leaving. I told her in 7 hours. She said, "Well, the flight agency booked my room here, so stay with me." I played it cool as we went to her room. I didn't know if she meant on the fold-out couch. It didn't mean the fold-out couch. So you had an overnight layover and then you had an overnight layover? Nah. The flight attendant had an overnight layover. He was just using the pull-out. My all-time college crush. Spent hours talking at a bar, just me and her. Her friend came up asking if she wanted to ride home with her. Crush said, "No, we're gonna go back to my house." My jaw dropped so low it was a ridiculous move. So hot. Power move. Buddy got picked up hard by someone with mad game? Lucky bugger? I was at a party once and it was getting real late. The girl whose house it was came in and said to everyone, "You all need to leave now because I'm going to have sex." We all got up to leave and she put her hand on my buddy's shoulder and said, "Not you?" His jaw was fucking slack. "You're holding the camera." My friend's twin sister. You basically banged your friend. His friend had a weird tingling while it was happening. In his arse. The Lowe's employee that helped me find some deck screws. It was the first time a girl asked me out. Ended up just being fuck buddies for a year or so, till I moved out of state. Best ass I've ever seen in person. Apparently she does. Did you find some deck in the end? No, just some cock. Years ago I worked for a fairly high-end men's formal wear clothier. Every year we at management level would fly to California for a few days of conferences. Also in attendance one year was the guy who did the voiceover for our training videos. I'd never seen or met this guy and he had the most god-awful monotonous voice ever. Perfect for corporate training videos. The last night there was always a drink fest. I caught glances with this really cute guy and started chatting. It turned out to be him. He took me back to his room. There wasn't anything boring about what followed, and I never looked at training videos the same way again after that LOL. It would have been hilarious if he used the training video voice back in his room. It's important to remember to leave the pants on the ground in the event of an emergency. Does oral count? count? My best friend knew I was having a bad day and she said go home, relax, and have a few beers. I said I don't think that's going to cut it. She asked what I needed to feel better, and I jokingly said about 6 beers, 10 grand, and a blowjob or something like that. She said she could help with 2 of those things, and about an hour later she showed up at my apartment with a 6-pack. This chick in a bar. Way too hot for me. We've been married for 29 years, 2 kids. Me reading all the comments very deeply, thinking I've been too behind in this fucking world. If it is any consolation, I give it a 50-50 shot for each comment that it's completely made up. A neighbor chick whose boyfriend stormed off one day because for some reason he thought she'd been me. Up to that day, I'd never done anything more than exchange pleasantries and passing with her. After he split, she came over to apologize for his behavior. I had overheard the argument and introduce herself. Next thing I know, I'm waking up in her big soft bed after an all-night romp. That boyfriend is a really powerful manifester. Awful nice of her to bring the bed with her. My wife. We were at best acquainted work colleagues. We were out at a work function, and she made a comment about her pubic hair in response to a joke about the curtains matching the carpet, and I got interested. I didn't even do anything to pick her up. I just danced with her for a while and then told her I'd like to see sometime, to which she pretty much said, okay, let's go. And about half an hour later was having what was the best sex of my life. We've now been together almost 20 years. A Latino mom of 4 who is 20 years older than me. Best sex I've ever had. But the life that went along with it was a bit loco for me. 4 kids. Latina, mom, older. You rolled the dice hard. A chick from school. We hated each other, but then she asked me if I wanted some weed, and I was like, what the fuck? I went over and we fucked our brains out and several more times. I totally missed a hint a girl from school gave me. She literally told me smoking weed makes her horny. I'm like, cool, me too sometimes. Met an extremely attractive woman at a park one day. Got to chatting. Developed a close friendship and connected. Fucked like rabbits for just over a year. Turns out she was a high-end and exclusive escort, and she had fallen for me. She's happily married with 2 kids now, and we're still friends. I am not an attractive guy, so having such an attractive woman find me in any way fuckable was astounding to me. A classmate came over to my dorm to study for an art history test back in university. We hadn't really had much to do with one another during class, but out of nowhere, she asked me if I wanted to study together for an upcoming test. I agreed and had invited her over to my dorm. Since it was a dorm, there wasn't much space to study, so we were sitting together on my bed. She was sitting up with her back against the headboard, and I was half laying on my side, kind of curled up toward her so that we could see the same notes. At some point, she started to run her finger along the back edge of my earlobe, which is a big turn-on spot for me. I did not clue in at all, though, and said something dumb like, "Whoa, you probably shouldn't tickle me there." So she stopped and went back to studying. A few minutes later, she starts with a slow finger rub of my ear again. So I thought maybe she didn't realize what I was talking about, so I said, "Seriously, you really shouldn't tickle me there. It's a bit of a special spot, and if you keep doing that sort of thing, I may try to jump your bones." So she stopped again, and we continued studying. After a few more minutes, she starts up with ear again. I couldn't believe that she wasn't getting the message, so I turned to look up at her with the, "I don't know if I've made myself clear here" speech ready, but she cut me off by looking directly into my eyes and saying, "So, when are you going to make with the jumping of the bones?" And the clueless boy light bulb finally lit up. Thanks for watching. Share your story in the comments. Bye.